So good afternoon. We are just 2 days away for the 10th annual State of Small Business in Chatham County. And this is a sneak preview with just two of the presenters. We're going to have 12 presenters on Wednesday, May 3rd, starting at 8:30 in the morning. And each of the presenters only gets 3 minutes to give us a soundbite of what's happening in their industry in Chatham County. And then relay what kind of information the small business owner needs to know. So Bo and Rhett, thank you so much for being on here. Rhett, of course, he is with under the commercial real estate industry, and Bo is a commercial, he's with the film industry. So Rhett, let's go ahead and have you introduce yourself, and then I'll have Bo.
Sure. I'm Rhett Mouchet. I'm a commercial real estate broker with Colliers International, Savannah.
Awesome. And Bo Bowen?
Hey, my name is Charles Bowen, but of course I go by Bo. I'm an entertainment attorney with the Bowen Law Group and also the founder of the Savannah Film Alliance.
So you're also an entertainment attorney. So we've got, Savannah's just on fire, seems like, in every industry here. So Rhett, let's start with you. What's happening in Savannah that makes this so hard to find real estate right now and so expensive?
We've got a couple of hours to talk, right?
Nope. We do today, but not on Friday, not on Wednesday. Yeah.
Well, I moved to Savannah in the 70s. Actually, I wanted to be a school teacher. I was just about finished with my master's degree. I took a real estate course, and I've just been hooked on real estate and real estate brokerage and just the fun of the industry, and also seeing the changes in Savannah over the years. I mean, if you were going into real estate in the 70s in Savannah and you were going into real estate now, I know it's been a long time, but the changes are phenomenal. So there's a lot happening. I mean, Marjorie, you want me to go through my opinion of the different sectors? Yeah. Okay, sure. I'd be glad to.
Yeah, we can do a deeper dive today than we can on Wednesday. So what do the small business owners need to know about what's happening in the commercial real estate section?
Absolutely. Well, and first of all, thanks you, Marjorie, and to Joe also. I mean, how long have I been doing this?
10 years.
Several years. Yeah. Oh my, that long? Oh my gosh, that's a long time. And fortunately, I didn't get asked to do this in like 2008. I would have probably had to hitchhike to the to the venue or whatever. The times were so bad when the economy was not doing very well in Savannah or other places. But what's happening in Savannah right now, it's a great place to be. And if you don't think so, just walk down the street and see all the people that you can tell are from out of town, that are moving here, that are talking about Savannah, talking about how great it is to be here, and we have a lot of that coming in here. So that's one of the things that is probably very, very evident. It's the people coming into town, and then the scarcity of homes, the market in it. But from a commercial real estate sector, I'd just like to kind of go through the different sectors and give you a little bit of an overview of what's going on. Let's start with the industrial, and I'm sure most everyone goes up I-16 or Veterans Parkway or over to Hardyville occasionally. And if you have, you've seen some construction, some buildings, some planned areas, with the industrial aspect go up, especially in the last 2 to 3 years. It was only a short time ago when we had a total inventory of about, I want to say 60 million square feet. And if you look at my breakdown, I think that what I've done on my actual breakdown that'll be sent out, I believe, is that we started in 2015, and I believe the inventory in 2015 of the total inventory, can believe this, was 46 million square feet. Okay, that was our inventory in the industrial sector. Now we have over 100 million square feet, and that's mostly the bulk warehousing, and that's what you see when you go down Veterans. Rockingham Farms, for instance, is one of the most visual examples of bulk warehousing, and a lot of the new warehousing parks are planned very well, and they have access, especially Rockingham Farms off Veterans Parkway. But you think about over 100 million square feet of warehousing going on the market, and we've got another 20, I think it's 20 million square feet plus this under construction right now. And when you think about that, but that's one thing, and you go, wow. But when you really think about, okay, well, that's all out there, and developers and people from other areas say, but how much of that is occupied? We have less than a 1% vacancy,
What?
and over 100 million square feet. Yeah, and I mean, less than a one. It's actually 0.92%, and that's in existence with all the other construction of warehouses that's coming online. And when I think about less than a 1% vacancy, how do I compare that? The only thing I thought about, a few days ago when I was doing this was, how do you picture less than 1%? All I can think about, well, my wife's shoe closet. That's about what our warehouse market looks like right now. As far as vacancy goes.
So, Rhett, let me ask you this question: with only less than 1% of vacancy with the warehouse, what's going to happen? Can we still expand? Is there room for expansion?
That's the other part, or the next chapter really, is that, yes, up I-16, and that expansion was already happening before announcement of Hyundai, and the port with expansions. I sold basically tracts of land for planned industrial parks in northern Bryan County before we had a Hyundai announcement. And so, off 280, Highway 80, going into Bullock County, those areas, south along 95, north along 95. So all the interstate corridors, that's being planned. I-16 is the busiest. One reason is available land. The second reason is on the way to Atlanta. So, I mean, Atlanta is a big center too, for industrial.
Red, is that part of the logistical technical corridor? Is that also playing a factor?
It is, and I don't know to what extent it's played a factor, but I've dealt with prospects and actually made some friends, and all of them have been down here to look at that aspect of the market, and to and to see what the opportunities are there.
Are they excited about moving to Savannah? Yes, no. What are the pros? What are the cons?
They are excited about coming to Savannah, and they compare Savannah to some other areas. They compare it to the West Coast, where there's been very crowding of the infrastructure, of being able to service, to unload the ships, the container ships that are out there. Not the availability of additional land to expand. Northeast, it's the same way, and prices have been extremely high, in the West Coast, also the Northeast, for a long period of time. And so Savannah was a deal. I mean, for a long time. Now we're getting up there too, but it's still less expensive to do something in Savannah, to rent space, to build buildings, than it is in New Jersey. And a lot of times developers will almost laugh when I tell them what some of the land prices here are, which I think are unbelievable. We talk about prices per acre, and some of the industrial acreage is going for more than $1 million an acre. And even when I say that, and those are not huge tracts of land, they're the smaller tracts of land. But even when I say that, they basically chuckle and say, well, you're not talking about per square foot, and that's what we talk about, in New Jersey and the Northeast, and in other areas, maybe Detroit or other places where land is very scarce, and plus access, traffic, and zoning is whatever. So Savannah is still a place that's being sought after, and I think will be for a few years. I mean, right now you can see, because there's a lot of apprehension. I'm going to say, I'll get on a Zoom call with a panel discussion, and the first thing that comes up, well, really, what's happening with the economy? Are we headed for a recession? What's going on with the interest rates? What's going on with the stock market? How is that affecting commercial real estate? And Savannah is somewhat insulated just
I keep
because,
hearing that. Hmm.
and we keep saying, and there's going to be some slowdown in Mesa. One reason is because the supply chain, supply and demand, is catching up somewhat, especially with container shipping and and those sort of things are coming in, and so it may not be quite the demand that we had last year coming in or whatever to catch up, but we're still on a growth trend everywhere that I'm listening. That is growth. The Georgia port continues to grow, and you can see by the construction of the warehouses that are going up, the industrial parks that are going in.
So if I asked you on a scale of one to 10 about the future economy of Chatham County for the next few years, what would you say?
Well, and that gets into the other sectors too. When for so long, well, I'm going to say for the last few years, really, my first report coming out was always the industrial sector. We're going, we're starting to grow, we're starting to increase by X amount. But then you would think about what's going on with the rest of the sectors, and if you look at what's going on with the multifamily market, our multifamily started to grow a few years ago, mainly because of the Georgia port. I mean, bringing in, more business, more manufacturing, more companies coming in, increased employment coming in. But the multifamily is going very well, still continues to grow. We have, just to touch lightly on it, we have the retail that continues to grow. So, when you take all those sectors in there and you see the growth that's coming in there, and then the residential market, which I'm not in, but I've got some great friends in that market, and the scarcity of available housing, the number of inquiries, coming in, the, houses being sold sight unseen. I mean, I would have never imagined that, years ago. So I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, as far as being optimistic about Savannah continuing to grow, I'm not a 10 guy a lot of times, but I'm going to say give it a 9, because all the factors, all the checks are in the right boxes, for our continued growth.
So, Rhett, what advice would you give to somebody looking for some space? Our other guest, Bo Bowen, he has a big law practice down in the Menger building. The Menger building's been sold as a hotel, and everybody in there has been told to find another place. And it's very, very hard. Bo, you're obviously experiencing this too.
Oh yeah, I'm a first-hand witness to this phenomenon of, office space disappearing. So, any advice would be appreciated.
And that's really a tough one, because I think I look back at some of my other reports, and I would get to the office sector and I would say, okay, this is this is the bad news of the day. Savannah doesn't have any inventory, basically. We've had less than 15,000 square feet of new space added, coming online. Basically, rents have not changed. I used to get challenged by my industrial buddies, the brokers and the developers, starting probably about 4 years ago, actually probably 7 or 8 years ago. They would come to me because they knew I did the first office market survey in Savannah. I think it was in the early 90s or whatever, just to see what we really had. It could have been in the 80s, and it was really interesting, because if you look at the increase in rents, you look at the increase of occupancy, you look at the increase in product on the industrial side, it is phenomenal. When you look at the office side, our rates were pretty much where they were. I mean, from the 90s up until a few months ago. I mean, the rates did not change that much, and where industrial did, they would go. That's the only sector that's ever going to grow, but certain things happen, which Bo is unfortunately a victim of, is that, our hospitality market, which is just going gangbusters. And, look what's going on now, conversions of the office buildings, to hotels. I mean, developers are coming in, they're paying, good bucks for the properties themselves, and so where are the office users going to go? Especially downtown, because where are people going to park? I sold the Menger building in 1980, I believe, or 81, and right before then it was a hotel, and then I think it went to auction or something like that. And then it was under it was it, Continental of Illinois had a loan on the property, and I met the developer from Chicago who asked me to work with him on the building, and it was really interesting. I mean, I think it sold for $1.5 million or something like that, back then. And the hotel market, I mean, the office market was coming in, and that's what was going to be converted to office. The same thing with the Realty building was getting redone at the same time, and so hotels weren't the thing back then. Office market was. Now hotels are coming back, and where are we going to find the additional office space? That's where you see most of the office buildings going in Pooler on the west side is where it is. They have zonings under mixed use under PUD plans out there that allow for institution. But if your business is downtown, where are you going to go? I'm hoping, West Bay Street corridor is beginning to expand. Hopefully for some, mixed use going out the West Bay Street. We've got the Canal District with the arena. There's still a good portion of land out there that would, but time is everything. Where are you going to go in the meantime? Eastern Wharf is offering, an alternative. I mean, a small amount of office space, I think, can be built Eastern Wharf. You've got the Madison Retail that have the properties across the street. Probably the prices are so high on these properties because hospitality and other investments are trading, such a vibrant market right now. Is that the rents have to be considerably more than what current office users are paying in order to get another product in there.
So Bo also, he represents the film industry. It is also on fire, and I'm sure it plays into what's happening with the real estate here. Bo, you want to give us an update of the film industry in Savannah?
Sure, Marjorie. Thank you for having me. I'll be glad to do that. The film industry really started growing about 10 years ago in Savannah, and it went from almost nothing but to in 2014, some production started kind of discovering Savannah, and that year it was about $38 million in economic impact in Savannah. And then a few years after that, they formed the Film Commission, they formed, the Savannah Film Office, and they started, really focusing on growing. And if you look at the numbers in 2014, every single year, it just about doubled. Their efforts really started to pay off until you got to 2019, where once again, they had a record year. They had the biggest year they had ever had. They had about $266 million locally in economic impact from the entertainment industry. And I'll talk about that in a minute, economic impact versus direct spend. But economic impact, I think, is where you really want to look at this. And so the fact that it was growing so routinely and it kind of made you feel like, wow, the sky is really the limit here. But then if any industry was decimated by COVID, it would have to be the entertainment industry. I mean, it went from gangbusters to zero overnight because every single production had to shut down. And so you saw for the first time those numbers in Savannah take this dramatic fall. And I remember when we were doing this event, the State of Small Business, and we were talking about, there's not really a lot of good news, I could say, other than at the time, all the studios, all the production companies, they were getting together and they were trying to figure out, how do we get back to work in this new reality? And so all of the unions and guilds, kind of got together, and they came up with this set of COVID protocols which productions could follow and then get back to work. It was harder in Savannah to implement those because Savannah doesn't have sound stages. Savannah doesn't have, a studio complex where you can go in and set up, all of these different protocols, all these stations and have the people on staff and that kind of thing. In Savannah, everything has to basically be filmed on location. So it took a little bit longer for things to come back in Savannah. So 2020 saw a huge dip. But I remember talking about in early 2021 at this, again, the same event, that, well, indicators are looking good. Indicators are appearing that, people have figured it out now. They're starting to come back. And 2021 jumped all the way back up to $240 million economic impact. So which was almost, close to that record, 266 million. So that was, everybody was really excited about that and hoping, man, let's hope this continues. And continue it did, because 2022 almost doubled the record. We jumped all the way up in 2022 to about $440 million in economic impact. And right now, 2023 is on pace to eclipse even that number. But now you've got to factor in, possibly at midnight tonight, there may be a writer's strike, which could once again impact not just Savannah, but the entire industry. The last time it happened was in 2007, and it continued for 100 days before they got it worked out. But I mean, I certainly remember how many shows were, put on hiatus and canceled and, weren't able to move forward during that period of time. So we'll see. But, again, fingers crossed by midnight tonight, they can work something out. But if not, we'll just have to see how that impact plays out. But, certainly to what the city has been able to accomplish, even without the infrastructure that it so badly needs, has been nothing short of remarkable. To be able to do 440 million in economic impact is, that's really starting to put the entertainment industry, up there with some of the other primary pillars of the community in terms of economic impact. Now, let me just take 1 minute and talk about that. So when I talk about economic impact, you obviously have the direct spend. Okay, so in 2022, the direct spend was about $207 million. Now that's what the productions actually paid to local crew members, to anybody that was working on the set in Savannah. But that doesn't come anywhere close to talking about the actual dollars that those productions are putting into the community. Because when that production comes to town, they need everything. They need bakers, they need dry cleaners, they need restaurants, they need hotels, they need, grocery stores, clothing stores. Everything you can think of that an entire community needs, this production needs. So they end up spending those production dollars on a lot of local businesses and services, far beyond just the people that are on the payroll there. So that's how they figure the actual economic impact. That's what these productions are actually spending in the Savannah area. And so that's the number that came to about 440 million in 2022.
So, Bo, that's phenomenal. If a small business owner is watching this, what advice would you give them about how to get involved, how to get a piece of this action?
Okay, well, there's a couple things I would say. The easy answer is, when these productions are looking for local services, the primary place they go is to filmsavannah.org. And that's the local film commission's website. They keep a database of vendors that cater to the entertainment industry. And anyone can go and register on there to be then you will have your name pop up as a vendor that can cater to the entertainment industry. But I need to give you a word of warning before you do that, because the industry is a little bit different. So you have to understand that if you want to cater to this industry, you have to understand how it works. So if, for example, let's say you're a dry cleaner, and you say, yes, I want to be film friendly. I want a part of this $440 million that's coming to Savannah. You've got to understand, these productions come to town with a very limited schedule, a lot of money, but a limited schedule to get a lot of things done. So they may have a need for your services at 3 a.m. on a Sunday. And so you've got to be willing and have procedures in place to be able to accommodate that. You will be paid, for that convenience and for that access. But if it's the kind of thing that you're just hoping, my bakery's open 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. I mean, you can register and they may come by, but if you really want to be a player, you've got to make yourself available for, whatever they need, whenever they need it. And again, anyone that does that, they absolutely get paid for that premium service. But it is right, exactly, and they're happy to pay more for your inconvenience and for the additional service. But you just have to understand that's what this industry is. It's not like we could just put this off till next week. I mean, these actors that they come in and and I know because I negotiate these contracts every week. They're only here very specific days, and they have absolute end dates that they have then committed to another project. So you have to complete it by a certain date. And if you have to shoot until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning to have that done, then that's what they have to do. That's just the industry. So that's the best advice I can give. Definitely register at filmsavannah.org on the vendor list they have there, but just kind of understand what it is that you're getting into.
I also heard that small business owners can rent their business for film sets. I mean, Rhett, have you experienced seeing any of that? Or Bo, I mean, any advice with that? Like a marina that they need to borrow, use a marina. I mean, how can you register your real estate in the film industry?
Well, I'll let Rhett talk about that, but I can tell you on that same site, filmsavannah.org, you can also register locations that you are willing to make available. And so these producers, before they even come to Savannah, they have this list with photos and everything of the places that are available, that they can reach out to. But even more importantly is to reach out to the people in the film office. Like Katie Shook is the locations manager with the Savannah Film Commission. Very nice. And if you let her know that your location is available, then she can then pitch that to the productions when they come to town.
That's how it works. Very good.
Yeah, and I'll agree with Bo, because we've reached out to Katie before, and we've shown different spaces and worked with some representatives of the film industry. I can't remember one gentleman's name, but he's looked at spaces several times. They for storage, and I mean, generally, it's not a long-term lease for space. It's for 6 months or 4 months or whatever. But it's a real benefit to some landlords, for just to have occupancy in the space. So they're a real asset. Yes.
So
I'll also mention Visit Savannah. Visit Savannah, is often who people will go through if they're looking for housing. Let's say for not necessarily for the crew, but if the director, the primary actors, things like that. Visit Savannah has done a great job of helping find lodging when like Brett was saying, the hospitality industry is just on fire, so that can be very difficult, and they really go out of their way to try to support the entertainment industry.
Well, if you had to sum up in a soundbite what the small business owners should know about each of your all's industry, Rhett, what would you say?
Gosh, there's so many great things that are going on in Savannah right now that really affect the small business community. And I didn't really even touch on Hyundai, and 23 miles from Savannah, 16 million square feet under one roof, okay? Thousands of people coming to work there.
Mhm.
The service industry, and Bo mentioned some of the, some of the industries that are, that are going to benefit in Savannah. And, businesses have grown gradually while I've been in Savannah for the most part. I mean, Savannah College of Art and Design, probably, in my opinion, has set records with the number of students, and being downtown and working in downtown real estate. I've really seen the impact, with what Savannah School of Art and Design does. But when you talk about 16 million square feet under one roof, 23 miles from Savannah off the interstate, and you look at a rural community, I mean, an area that's going to change over the next few years. And like Bo was talking about, the services those people are going to need. I mean, tech services, of course, food services, legal services. I mean, within close proximity. I mean, car services. I mean, if you think of all of those, and real estate services. I mean, the company I'm with is part of the small business community. So you think of Ubers, and you think of transportation, and everything that you can imagine, and industries. Small business community can start a lot faster than getting national big corporations to come in and set up an office. Small business entrepreneur can do it, and the fact that they've got to do it in a couple of years, doesn't scare many of us. We go, okay, we can handle that. 2 years. Yeah.
Wow. Bo, thank you, Rhett. How about you? What's the sound bite for the film industry that small business owners should be aware of?
Well, I was just thinking as you asked that question, Marjorie, I was thinking back. Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil was published in 1994. Okay. I moved to Savannah in 1995. Now, I don't know, if I'm sure y'all remember this, but Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil was such a publishing phenomenon. It stayed on the New York Times bestseller list for over 4 years and became one of the best-selling, nonfiction books of all time, and really best-selling books of all time. And, that, of course, then led to this tremendous explosion in tourism, really overnight, just based upon that one book. Now, I remember very well when I moved here in 1995 that so many residents were furious about this influx of tourists. They were like, these people are tromping, through our front yard. They're slowing down the traffic in the squares. They wanted the city to just shut everything down. And it took some time for people to understand what an overall benefit that was to the community. And I think the entertainment industry is sort of in that same boat now as it's growing, because you do hear, I don't like it. They're shutting down this street, it's making things very inconvenient. But so I would say, to anyone that's operating a small business, yes, there is some trade-off there. There may be some lack of convenience when someone's filming, but understand the overall benefit that it is having for the city, and probably for you directly if you take advantage of it. So anyone that has a service that can, gel well with the entertainment industry that these productions may need when they come to town, I would absolutely encourage them to get involved and to reach out.
Well, I want to thank you for being on the water cooler, and I want to thank you and all the other speakers for preparing your reports for Wednesday at 8:30 in the morning. You each only have 3 minutes to give these facts and what it means to the small business owner. We've been doing it 10 years, and if you can, anybody watching, please RSVP on the SCORE Savannah website, just so we have an idea of how many people will be there. It will be held, here's the information. It will be held at Savannah State University in the auditorium. It's where the Business Administration College is. So anyhow, guys, thank you so much for being on the water cooler, and I will see you early on Wednesday morning.
Sounds great. Thank you, Marjorie.
Yeah.
Thanks, Margaret.